sprechen. Jetzt würde er kurz auslegen, was Empathie bedeutet.
Yeah. So, what empathy is? Yeah, that's feeling of sharing of emotions, sharing of perceptions, sometimes, and also some situation when one person can stand himself in place of other. I mean, to understand other easier. Yeah.
Also es geht hauptsächlich darum, andere verstehen zu können und sich jemand anderes reinsetzen zu können.
So that's one thing which is really necessary for social interaction. Yeah, and without empathy, probably we cannot communicate. Yeah, and what's important to remind that empathy happens something in the intra-psychical level, inside ourselves. That's not outside, but we have some feeling of empathy, which is basic for our body also. Yeah, there's some basic mechanisms.
Dieses Gefühl von Empathie wird sozusagen in uns geboren und kommt nicht von außen. Das ist eigentlich sehr wichtig in sozialen Interaktionen.
And also there's many diseases or some syndromes when people cannot feel empathy. For example, that's anxiety or post-traumatic stress disorder or Asperger's syndrome, for example. And also when some, I would say, brain damages, they lead to inability to feel empathy. Yeah?
Es gibt viele psychische Störungen, wo man keine Empathie von dem hat oder verringert ist, wie bei der posttraumatischen Stressstörung oder Autismus oder Asperger-Syndrom.
It means these persons, they cannot feel empathy, and it really makes their social life difficult. They cannot get friends, they cannot communicate well. So that's really important to help these people as well. Yeah?
Und diese Leute sind auch sehr isoliert und einsam, da es sehr wichtig ist für die soziale Interaktion.
It's also important that empathy is existing is not for humans only, but there are also empathy, or some sign of empathy at least, for animals as well. For example, for high animals like monkeys, dolphins, elephants, and even there's some scientific report that even rodents are empathic sometimes.
Empathie ist nicht nur für uns Menschen wichtig, sondern auch für viele Tiere wie Affen und Mäuse und Ratten.
For example, there are two examples even for rodents. For example, work of Landford, when he showed that the mice can feel pain, and they feel pain much stronger if they feel or if they see other mice suffering, and they can feel this, I mean, share this feeling, but this sharing of feeling works much, much stronger than they know already this mouse, if they were cage mates. And in case of unknown mice, stranger, this feeling is not so strong.
Und Langford hat das gezeigt im Experiment mit Mäusen, dass sie sagen, wenn sie Schmerz empfinden, diesen Dollar empfinden, wenn sie andere Mäuse davor sehen, die den gleichen Schmerz haben, und noch stärker, wenn dies ein Freund von ihnen war und nicht nur irgendein Fremder.
And recently it appeared very famous work by Bartol in Science, when he showed that rats can help each other. For example, if some rats trapped in the cage, other rats can open the door and release these trapped rats. And surprisingly, if the rat has choice between helping other rats and eat chocolate, and chocolate is a very strong stimuli for rodents, they would like to do it. In many situations, they choose to help other animals rather than eat chocolate.
Und sie haben ein Experiment gemacht, wo sie gezeigt haben, dass Ratten sich gegenseitig helfen. Also wenn Ratten bedroht werden von anderen Ratten, dann würden ihre Freunde sozusagen die Türen öffnen, die rauslassen, und das sogar, wenn Schokolade angeboten wird, dass für sie ein sehr starker Stimulus ist, um eigentlich der Schokolade zu folgen und nicht dem Helfen der Freunde.
How can we influence empathy? As empathy exists, but what can we do? Maybe we can stronger in case of if person doesn't feel any empathy, or how can we modulate it chemical way? And actually we can. There at least one historical report about it. That's a long story, very old, about the Tristan and Isolde. That's a story of chemical love. Yeah, I will remind you the basic things. Yeah, it was Princess Isolde, and she must marry the King Marcus. but Marcus was a bit busy with other things, and he sent his son-in-law to bring this princess to him. And on the way, they suddenly were drinking some, I would say, wine, and instead of normal wine, it was some special magical drink made by magician Merlin to improve, I would say, family life on Isolde and King Marcus. But as I told you, they suddenly drink it not with Marcus, but with his son. And they fall in love immediately. And it was forbidden love. All of them understood that it was not so good to fall in love, but they cannot resist because they were sharing this drink.
Als Verdeutlichung die Geschichte von Tristan und Isolde bringen. Und die hatten sozusagen einen chemischen Trank bekommen, der danach ihre Liebe verstärkte. Oder dadurch konnten sie erst quasi in Liebe fallen.
So what can we do? To change the empathy. Yeah, there's some old reports, but there are also now some modern reports. We know special class of substances. I would say more than 70 now. We know which called empathogens or entactogens. It means they improve empathy or improve feeling of touching. Yeah? So that's some kind of psychoactive substances which can improve the feeling, emotional feeling mainly.
Und es gibt viele psychedelische oder chemische Substanzen, die quasi diese empathische Empfindung verstärken und modulieren können.
And also people report that these substances, entactogene or empathogene, they help people to improve relationship or to understand each other better, yeah, I would say.
Und diese Empathogene oder Entaktogene können somit anderen Leuten helfen, sich besser zu verstehen und einander zu verstehen.
So the first of such substances, and I would say until now the best one, it's very famous, called MDMA, 3,4-methylene-deoxy and methylamphetamine, or ecstasy, was discovered 100 years ago by Dr. Anton Köllisch in Darmstadt. But I would say this empathogenic action of this substance was discovered 50 years later by Dr. Alexander Shulgin in the beginning of 60s. mediator.
Also Serotonin wird erhöht und auch quasi der Rezeptor wird blockiert, was zu einer Erhöhung von intrazellulären Serotonin führt und daraufhin zu einer erhöhten Ausschüttung auch von Oxytocin.
But we know something about biochemistry, but there are almost no information about the genetical regulation and what happens on protein level. Yeah, because we know the biological mechanisms are regulated by proteins, and proteins are encoded by the genes. And probably people with autism or with Asperger's syndrome, or they have some problems on this level. On the genetical level, there are many evidences that autism connected somehow with genetical things. But we still don't know which genes are really responsible for social behavior and which proteins, what are signal transduction mechanisms. Yeah. What happens after oxytocin? Yeah? Oxytocin induces behavior. What is between oxytocin and behavior? Nobody knows. There's some proteins, definitely.
Und wieder mal weiß man wenig über die genetischen und Proteinnetzwerke und Interaktionen, aber halt wieder nur von Oxytocin und der Folge des Verhaltens, was dazwischen drin passiert, fehlt der Information.
So once again, some graphical representation of MDMA action, how it works. So first, as you see, the normal situation, there's serotonin released, which we always have in our brain. We have some, I would say, amount. There's also some production of serotonin increased, and then serotonin works somehow. But that's normal state of our brain. And after MDMA, so first of all the serotonin which we kept for a long time, they being released in the synaptic cleft. Yeah? Then reuptake is being blocked. Normally, serotonin works, and then it goes back. Yeah? Here, after MDMA, it stays. It means continuous action for longer time, cannot go back.
Also die Ausschüttung von Serotonin wird erhöht, aber auch die Wiederaufnahme von Serotonin wird quasi gehemmt und es bleibt die ganze Zeit am Rezeptor durchwirken.
So, and then after it, this increased concentration of serotonin bind to serotonin receptor, yeah, and transduce the signal, and then somehow signal goes to the oxytocin. We also don't know this missing link. It means we know that serotonin bind to many receptors. In case of MDMA, 1A probably most important, and it leads somehow to release of oxytocin and increased concentration.
Wir wissen eigentlich nur, dass Serotonin zum Rezeptor bindet, dann dort bleibt und wieder ein Oxytocin frei gemacht wird, ist noch unklar.
Okay, so and then to measure the behavior, I made some experiments which called the test of sociability and tests for preference of social novelty. So how it works is sorry, that must be video. I will show you it separately. It must be somewhere here. We inject some drugs. Yeah. Then I will probably explain during the video. Yeah. So the video is here. Moment. Yeah. So we have so-called 3-cage apparatus for social behavior. Yeah, there's 3 different compartments which are interconnected somehow, and then mice inside. So first we inject drugs, then we wait 20 minutes until drugs will start to work, and then we put mice to allow them to find out, and I would say habituation phase, yeah, to allow mice explore the environment, and then on left part we put the mice which called stranger 1. Yeah, that's some mice which never had any contacts with this test mice, which is in the middle.
Also man gibt erst den Mäusen die Drogen, dann werden sie zur Habitation in den Käfig gesetzt und dürfen ein bisschen explorieren und zur gleichen Zeit setzen sie eine fremde Ratte, die sie nicht kennen, in den nebenan Glaskasten quasi, wo die quasi gefangen ist und dann kann die andere Maus eine Weile dahin laufen und sie explorieren oder nicht.
And so have a look there at some kind of interaction, so how they interact. And after MDMA, they start to interact longer, stronger. I will show you some graphical data now. So what do we measure actually in this test? We measure kind of interaction and we measure time. Yeah? So there are 3 different chambers. So one mice can spend time in empty chamber or with a stranger. Yeah? And then we measure time and where mice prefer to stay.
Und es wird quasi geguckt nach der Zeit, die die Mäuse zusammen verbringen, entweder in der Interaktion oder alleine beim Explorieren des Käfigs. Und das wird dann als
So on second part of the experiment, it's called tests for preference of social novelty. We put second stranger, which has also never had any contacts with test mouse. And here, this test mouse, which got drugs, has a choice between the mice which they know already since first test, 10 minutes of sociability tests, or with this very new stranger, which they never contacted before. And we see what they prefer, what mice is better for them. Do they really like to contact the new mice or would like to stay with the old one?
Beim zweiten Test, wo es Neuigkeitserfahrung geht, testen
Ja.
Sie quasi eine zweite fremde Ratte in den Käfig nebenan, die auch quasi gefangen ist. Und dann gucken Sie, wie viel Zeit die Maus mit der alten Maus, die sie schon kennt, verbringt, und mit der neuen Maus, die Sie gerade eingesetzt haben.
Ja, Moment. Yeah. So, and then here you can see the results of experience. And surprisingly, we realize that MDMA has not equal action to mice. Some mice which receive MDMA didn't change their social behavior, but surprisingly, they change activity. I mean, we measure the locomotion activity, how fast they're running, how many entries they do.
Und Sie haben überraschenderweise gefunden, dass es abhängt von Maus zu Maus, wie NMA, quasi was für Effekte NMA hat. Bei manchen tut es gar nichts anscheinend, sondern erhöht nur die Lokomotoraktivität.
And another group, which we called like MDMA high sociability group, MDMA increased sociability dramatic way, as you see, up to 5-fold in the medium. But surprisingly, on this group, they had almost no effect on locomotion activity. Yeah, there are different kinds of response.
Und dann gab es eine zweite Untergruppe bei den Mäusen, die ungefähr 5-fach so stark auf NMA, also auf diese Empathie- oder Geselligkeitserhöhung reagiert haben wie die anderen. Und die hatten komischerweise dann gar keine Lokomotoraktivität. Also scheint sich verbieten.
And to find the possible mechanisms of this effect, we use two kinds of receptor antagonists, the blockator of this effect. First of these antagonists was Y20635, which is selective antagonist for serotonin 1A receptor at dose 1 milligram to kilogram. And as you see, these green bars, antagonist itself has no effect, neither on locomotion activity or preference for social novelty, neither for sociability. But if we give MDMA and these antagonists, all these social effects of MDMA disappears. It means if we block serotonin 1A receptor, MDMA doesn't work.
Dann haben sie quasi jetzt geguckt, was die Effekte ausmacht und haben einen Antagonisten, also einen Blockierer quasi gegeben von 5-HT1A-Rezeptoren. Und alleine hat er keinen Effekt, aber zusammen mit MDMA blockt er quasi die ganzen Effekte, die normalerweise MDMA haben würde auf Empathie bei Mäusen.
Also to check the influence on oxytocin system, we use another antagonist for oxytocin receptor, the substance L36889, which is quite modern and then almost no knowledge. So it was necessary to make a lot of experiments to adjust the dose. There's nothing known about animals. There's only one article about the monkeys. And we found out that this antagonist alone has no effect, which is good for us, but also can block the effect of MDMA. Unfortunately, not completely, but partially, because this antagonist is not so good. For oxytocin receptors, there are no good antagonists known. But this antagonist, which works, more or less, also able to block effects of MDMA.
Und das gleiche haben sie gefunden für einen Oxytocin-Rezeptor-Antagonisten, welcher auch beinahe komplett die Effekte von MDMA quasi wegnimmt.
Yeah. And what happens with preference of social novelty? As you see, this group which has increased sociability, that has dramatically increased demand of social novelty. It means the mice after MDMA don't like to go to find new friends, but they prefer to stay with friends which they know already, like increased social bonding. Yeah, they prefer old good friends, I would say.
Und sie haben auch gefunden, dass die Mäuse auf MDMA immer ihren alten Freund quasi vorziehen, als die neue fremde Ratte. Also es scheint, ja, gute Freunde zu bevorzugen.
Yeah, and as you see, for locomotion activity, the significant increase was only in the group MDMA with low sociability. It means we cannot say MDMA doesn't work on this group. It works, but different way. It increases activity, locomotion activity, but not sociability.
Und die andere Gruppe, wo der Effekt nicht zu sehen war, da scheint NMA einfach anders zu wirken und pur auf die Lokomotoraktivität einen Einfluss zu haben.
And what's important, here at the beginning, we made a lot of experiments to find out good dose for MDMA. Because in the articles about the mice, rodents, and MDMA, usually people use very high dose, like 10 milligrams, 15 milligrams, and it has quite strong effect, like damaging of the brain, neurotoxicity. My goal was to find out minimal dose, which has almost no neurotoxicity, but increased sociability only. Yeah, and finally, I found out that dose about 3 milligrams for mice works quite good. I would say that's relevant to dose for humans. I would say 50 milligrams, maybe 17 milligrams.
Sie haben lange probiert, die richtige Dosis zu finden, wo man quasi einen minimalen Effekt von NMA noch haben kann bei Ratten. Und dann wurden sie eingependelt auf 3 Milligramm per Kilogramm Körpergewicht von einer Maus, was ungefähr 50 bis 70 MDMA bei Menschen entsprechen würde.
Because we know that's a lot of research on overdose of MDMA, what bad can happen on side effects of MDMA, but we know almost nothing about the good effects of MDMA, what's the molecular mechanisms. We don't know what happens, I mean, why empathy impairs. Yeah, we know what happens when we overdose MDMA. Yeah. There's some toxicity, and mechanism is known. Yeah.
Es gibt halt viele Studien zu der Überdosierung oder zu hochdosierten Dosen von NMA.
Yeah.
Bezüglich der Neurotoxizität, aber es gibt wenig Studien eigentlich für die noch nicht schädlichen Dosen, wo man trotzdem schon Empathie messen kann.
So then I made proteomic assay first for cortex, and so using very modern assay called iTrack. So we just took the proteins, analyzed it, label, pulled together all 7 groups. Yeah, we had 7 groups. We analyzed all these 7 groups in one assay, and found out about 100 altered proteins, which changed their level out of more than 4,000 proteins. Yeah? So altogether we analyzed 4,000, 100 were upregulated or downregulated somehow, and they belong to different basic signal transduction pathways. Like most important pathways are here, so that's like glycolysis, energy metabolism, I would say, most important, affected is energy metabolisms. Also GABA synthase, which is important for the signal transduction, G proteins, oxidative phosphorylation, and surprisingly, for me, MAP kinase pathway and axonal growing pathway.
Sie haben quasi eine Proteinanalyse gemacht und gefunden, dass über 4.000 Proteine sich eigentlich nur 100 entscheidend geändert haben. Hier sind die Signaltransduktionswege aufgelistet zu den Proteinen.
So then I separated these altered proteins into 3 subgroups. Yeah, one subgroup were the proteins which clearly correlate with the sociability. So that's the difference between MDMA high sociability groups and all other 6 groups as a negative controls for it. Yeah? So, and then I was trying to combine them together to build up one pathway. But as you see, we don't have one single pathway. Yeah? Some proteins, altered proteins, are interconnected. There's some knowledge about they belongs to one pathway. Some other are like orphans. They alone or they connected to some other. It means there are definitely some missing proteins which we still don't know, and there are probably many pathways activated. But what's important here is that all these genes which are here, they somehow connected to sociability, and the proteins which names are labeled in yellow, they already some evidences for connection for autism. It means there's some confirmation, but once again, sociability and autism is not exactly the same. It's not the opposite, I would say. Yeah? The autism is much more complex phenomenon.
Sie haben quasi versucht, Proteinnetzwerk oder Wege darzustellen und gefunden, dass viele von diesen Proteinen schon korrelieren und auch mit Geselligkeit korrelieren. Aber man kann nicht einen gemeinsamen Nenner quasi finden und es fehlen noch viele von diesen Proteinen im Netzwerk. Und die sind auch zu Autismus relatiert in gewissem Maße. Da die Krankheit noch komplexer ist, kann man schwer Schlüsse daraus ziehen.
Diese gelben Proteine sind in Relation zu Autismus verbindet. So another group was sensitivity to MDMA. That's the difference between two subgroups, the mice which received MDMA and had two different kinds of response, which had high sensibility but no hyperactivity, and another group high hyperactivity but no sensibility. It means the patients, humans who have some mutations in these genes, MDMA will not help for them, because we know for some autistic patients, MDMA help, for some other not. Probably because these genes are involved.
Jetzt haben Sie die Schlussfolgerung gezogen, quasi, weil es die zwei Subgruppen gab von NMA-Antworten von den Ratten. Einmal diese hyperaktiven, aber keine Empathieerhöhung und einmal die Empathieerhöhung, aber keine Hyperaktivität. Dass das wahrscheinlich auch ein Grund ist, warum bei Autisten oft NMA hilft, aber manchmal auch nicht, weil die wahrscheinlich eine unterschiedliche genetische Veranlagung haben, so wie die Mäuse auch.
As you see also, no single pathways, there are many pathways are involved.
Mit vielen verschiedenen Wegen oder Signaltransduktionswegen, nicht nur einen.
And the last group, that's the proteins which are correlated with oxytocin system. It means when they apply serotonin 1A receptor or oxytocin receptor antagonists, it was similar response. But means some confirmation for hypothesis that's first serotonin 1A receptor activated, and then it followed by oxytocin receptor. Because this response we observed in all two of these groups. So that's not drug dependent, but some general mechanism dependent. That depends not from these chemical antagonists, but because of their biological action.
Und was Sie in allen beiden Gruppen gefunden haben, war, dass erst immer die 5-HT1A-Rezeptoraktivation kommt und danach Oxytocin ausgestoßen wird. Und das war in allen immer so. Das ist nicht abhängig von der Person, sondern es ist wirklich substanzabhängig.
Yeah. So, just putting everything together, summarize. MDMA with relatively low dose increase sensibility in laboratory animals and decrease social preference for social novelty, but increase in locomotion was observed only in MDMA low sociability group. Yeah, so you can read, yeah.
Sie haben gefunden, dass eine kleine Dosis von 3 mg pro Kilogramm schon ausreicht, um Empathie zu erhöhen. Aber das, can you repeat the last bit?
Increase in locomotion was observed only in MDMA low sociability group.
Dass die Erhöhung in Lokomotion nur in den weniger also empathieempfänglichen Tieren vorhanden war.
So then it has been shown that serotonin receptor 1A antagonists, Way10635, as well as oxytocin receptor antagonists, L368899, can rescue MDMA effect of MDMA on sociability and social novelty, but both these effects, both these antagonists have almost no effect on locomotion.
Und wir haben gezeigt, dass diese beiden Antagonisten, einmal für den 5-HT1A-Rezeptor und für den Oxytocin-Rezeptor, beide dazu führen, dass quasi die MDMA-induzierten Empathie-Effekte weggenommen werden.
And also, using proteomic assay, we found about more than 100, I would say, proteins and genes which correlate quite good with sociability, with sensitivity to MDMA, or kind of respond because of MDMA, and with modulation of oxytocin system. And probably most of these proteins, they're quite important target for future therapy, for autistic people or for even to increase, I would say, ability of humans to communicate to each other. Yeah, I mean, make people more friendly, I would say.
Und ihre Proteomanalyse haben sie gefunden, dass von diesen 100 Proteinen, die da übrig blieben in der Veränderung nach MDMA, dass die quasi in verschiedene Wege, so wie MDMA, die Regulation von Empathie und von Oxytocin involviert sind und dann wahrscheinlich halt sehr große Bedeutung sind für Autismus und posttraumatische Stressstörungen sowie andere Empathiestörungen.
So that's it. Thank you for your attention. So. Questions? Auf Deutsch.